everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Susanna Schumann, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette. I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Robert Manni, author and radio show host of The Guy's Guide to Love. And today we're talking about 5 signs that he's not the one. And I know, ladies, there's lots of signs, but he's going to give you the prime ones on how he's not the one. But before we jump into it, Robert, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Suzanne. It's always a pleasure being on your show. You give wonderful tips out to the ladies out there. So listen up, ladies. I'm going to give you the guy's point of view. So my background's in marketing and advertising. I'm a novelist also. My novel is The Guy's Guide to Love. It's a male Sex in the City, if you will. I'm also a host of a radio podcast, Guys Radio. We have a weekly broadcast, and I also am a syndicated blogger on robertmanni.com, manni.com.
Great. So, Robert, tell us the first sign that he's not the one.
Well, let's start with the aspect of jealousy, if you will. Jealousy is an emotion, if you will, that really is all about insecurity. And nobody wins. If somebody's jealous, that doesn't mean he likes you anymore. In fact, it means he's probably a little bit insecure and afraid about the relationship. So, and a lot of guys are jealous. And it's not fair. And a lot of women are jealous too, and it's not fair, and it never serves the relationship well. So I think a major red flag is a little bit of jealousy. You know, you want to have your partner on their toes a little bit, of course, but if they're a little bit too jealous and they're a little bit too controlling, which I would say is number 2 or number 1A, that becomes a red flag where every step that you take all day long, the guy is questioning you, challenging you, and it makes you uncomfortable about getting together with your girlfriends or your colleagues and your family, whatever. You don't want somebody, putting a ring around your activities like that, because it's going to get worse over time.
Exactly. And you're right. It's all about insecurity, because if someone trusts you and is self-assured in himself, he's not going to be that controlling.
Right.
So what's your second tip on a sign that he's not the one?
I think if he doesn't manage his indulgences the right way, properly, if you will. So if he has, issues with drinking or gambling or recreational drugs or anything sexual or whatever, you have to kind of just be careful of that, because if it gets too far, if he can't get through the weekend without, getting high, and anytime you go out, he has to drink. That to me, if you project that out a couple of years, it's a habitual behavior, and that's kind of how our society rolls. And you have to be careful of that. I used to, feel uncomfortable if I dated a woman and she didn't drink, and then I realized that it was actually a good thing if she didn't drink, or she just had a glass of wine or whatever, because usually everybody has other types of outlets, and they're a lot more fun anyhow, if you know what I mean. So I'd just be careful if somebody indulges too much in recreational activities like alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. It's like everything in moderation.
Yeah.
So what's your third tip that signs that he's not the one?
I think you need to be on the same page value-wise about how you view money. And if one person in the partnership is a spendthrift and the other one is a scrimper and saver, there's going to be an issue at some point. So it's good to kind of at least get into an ebb and flow in terms of your perspective on money versus his perspective on money. Because so many relationships that get into the deeper, more committed type fall apart because of finances. And a lot of marriages fall apart because of that. And most of it is because of a lack of shared values about how the partners view money. Not necessarily how they spend it, but how they see it.
Right. I've heard that. I've heard that can be a big cause of a lot of breakups in relationships. So, what's your fourth tip?
This one is, I think it's very important, though it's not one that many people talk about, and that is the idea of respecting the other person's family. I think it's important that listen, everybody thinks their family's a little bit wacky and dysfunctional. But that's just the way it is. So you don't want to get into a situation where you're in a relationship where he never wants to hang out with your family. And that means like not wanting to go over on the holidays. I've been in that position where I didn't like. I was dating somebody. I didn't want to hang out with her family during the holidays. I was being selfish. It was unfair. It became an issue, and it was a valid issue. And I think I've seen that on the other, the flip side also, where I've been with women and I could tell like they didn't want to go hang around with my family and folks and stuff for holidays or whatever. And of course, you don't want your family to be so intrusive that gets in the way. That's another issue. But there is the aspect of respect that's very important. So I think if your partner doesn't respect your friendships and your family, that's I think going to become an issue over time.
I completely agree, and I just want to stress the point, like how you talked about. I mean, it's one thing if you don't want to hang out with their family all the time. That's kind of understandable. But like Robert had brought up, is about the holidays. I mean, that you don't want to go through that every holiday season of that your significant other doesn't want to hang out with your family, because that just adds stress to a time that's supposed to be joyful, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so what's your fifth tip on signs that he's not the one?
Well, unfortunately I've seen this happen too many times, but I think anytime a guy is abusive to a woman, it's verbally, kind of subconsciously, if you will, behaviorally, or God forbid, physically, that is like no, that a woman should like end the relationship at that point. You do not want to get into relationships where you get comfortable with somebody not treating you well. And that happens all too often. And I'm sure a lot of guys are on the receiving end of that also. But for the most part, I think it's a big issue for a lot of women, and they don't like to talk about it. And a lot of times they'll stay into relationships way too long with guys who are very undeserving of their love because they don't treat them well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point. Like if a guy, ladies, is always putting you down or telling you, you don't look great or something's wrong with you or anything like that, because I think some people think it's just about physical abuse. It's not just about physical abuse. Actually, verbal abuse and putting someone down all the time is actually worse because it sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of teasing is okay, but nobody wants to think that their partner thinks that they do look fat in those pair of jeans.
Exactly. So these have been some really, really great tips, Robert, about how he's not the one. And I think, ladies, you should think about those things with the next guy that you're dating. So, Robert, how can our audience find you?
The best way is just go to my website, robertmanni.com. There's information on Guys Radio, information on the novel, and there's over 175 weekly blog posts we put there, plus interviews and lots of other content. So thanks so much. And the book, The Guy's Guide to Love.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you'd like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com. And if you would like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns him off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com. Okay.